Hi everyone, welcome back. This is week 61 of my social isolation get ready with me's. This week I've got a new palette. I ordered it, man, it took some time to get here. It's the Hipdot and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups palette. I love Reese's and I really couldn't stop myself from ordering this palette. I've never ordered anything from Hipdot before. I have no idea about the quality of any of this. They are marked as pressed pigments and the inside of the palette looks like this. I was intrigued by the color story because I do think it is a very good representation of the Reese brand. However, what I wasn't expecting when I got this is the fact that this is like a glitter kind of pressed into there. It's not a shimmery eyeshadow, so I was a little bit disappointed with that. But anyway, I haven't actually played with it yet, and that's what I want to do today. Oh yeah, one thing about this palette is that it's supposed to smell like chocolate. It does not. It smells like cardboard and glue and kind of eyeshadow. I don't smell chocolate out of this at all. And honestly, the scent of it's kind of repugnant. It doesn't smell like it's gone off. It just smells like a warehouse, like manufacturing stuff. So I actually picked up two palettes arrived this week. I got the Reese's one first, and then I actually ended up ordering the Natasha Denona Zendo palette. I've never tried anything out by her before, but I was intrigued with the color story in the Zendo palette, so I decided to snag it. Thankfully, it was not one of those Natasha Denona palettes that's like, I don't know, 150 bucks. I feel like some of those smaller palettes are still super expensive. This one was pricey, around like 80 Canadian, but definitely not over the $100 mark. But I figure I'll play with that next week because honestly, I'm really enchanted with the idea of putting a Reese's themed eyeshadow palette on my eyes. It's so funny. I used to, when I was younger, really not like Reese's cups. I feel like my mom used to have them a decent amount, and I always started to think of them as like a, sorry mom if you're watching this, like an older person type chocolate bar. Like I always wanted something like an O. Henry or a Caramelic or something, I don't know, a little bit more extravagant. I never really thought that peanut butter with chocolate was like the shit. And now that I'm older, it is the shit. It's probably hands down my favorite chocolate bar. Okay, so because this is a glitter, pressed glitter in the middle, I've kind of had to change what I thought I was going to do with this look. So fingers crossed it's still gonna work. But what we're gonna start with is Tasty, which is the orange right here. And we're gonna put that directly through the crease. This is really pigmented, okay? Holy smokes. I'm gonna try lightly. Oh, okay, blend it out. Wow, the color off of that. So was Hipdot that brand that like copied all kinds of palettes? I can't remember. There's been a few of those over the years, but they kind of come and go. It did take me a while to get this palette. I feel like I ordered it over a month ago. Like when it first launched, I was like there on the site ordering it. And then it didn't show up until this past week. I remember thinking like, did it get lost in transit or something? Also, it was super cheap. It was like 16 bucks for the palette, so really not that expensive. Although I think I paid, man, what did I pay in shipping? Probably like $20. Ridiculous. $20 in shipping, and it still took a month to get here. I was hoping that the chocolate smell would come through a little bit more once I got it, like the powder away from the palette, but I don't smell chocolate. I'm really disappointed because I did want that smell of peanut butter and chocolate. But I guess that was a little bit much to ask for from a $16 palette. Okay, now that we've got the orange on, I'm gonna go in with the brown, and we're basically gonna cover the entire lid with this. It's the milk chocolate shade here. And I'll probably be applying the glitter on top of it later, but I gotta put a base down. So I'm gonna put it all over the lid and pull it through the crease. Wow, that's a pretty solid brown, actually. I did not expect much from this palette, okay? It's 16 bucks. Like, I don't know this brand whatsoever. I was expecting just like a fun little thing, but the pigmentation's actually pretty decent on this. So with this, I'm just trying to blend it through my crease because I want it to like sink into the orange. And then just packing it all over the lid. Which I don't normally do with a fluffy brush, but this color is so pigmented, it's kind of working out. There is a lot of kick up though. I'm not sure how much, yeah, you can see the powder in there. I mean, they are pressed pigments, so whatever, but there's probably gonna be a lot of fallout down my eyes too. Now I like the look of that sort of as is, but I do want to try to play around with this glitter just because like it's a shade I feel like most people are going to be curious about in here. So I'm going to put that on the lid, but I'm going to first start with some Too Faced glitter glue just to make sure it holds in place because I don't know if this stuff has any kind of binder like within the product. So just taking a flat brush, back of my hand, and just going to pat it onto my lid. I don't want to take it into the crease or corner over there, or outer corner rather. I'm keeping it here. Then using the same brush, I'm just gonna, oh, that's flaky. Okay. It's kind of like chunking onto my brush. Let's see. It definitely sticks in one area. It's not really blending or smoothing out rather. Have I made a giant mistake here? Possibly. I'm definitely gonna have to cover way more than I intended because you can kind of see like it just sort of, I don't know, doesn't look great there. So it looks like there's binder actually in the product itself, so it's sticking without me having to put on that glitter glue because it's sticking over here, which I didn't actually apply any there. So I'm just gonna sort of try to cover most of the area there. Oh, that's a bit better. Okay. Okay, that turned out a little bit better than I was expecting, especially when it first went on. I was like, oh, I've made a big mistake, but I think I'm okay with it as is. For the inner corner of the eye, I'm going to take the gold here, which is called Sweet. Just pack that on and drag it into the brown glitter. You know, I don't think I actually own any brown glitter. It's not a shade of glitter I feel like I would go for. I'd want like a colorful one, right? Okay, for the lower lash line, I'm going to start with the waterline. I've got the Revlon So Fierce liner here in the shade Mighty Mocha. Oh, I forgot how smooth that thing is. And then to blend that out, I'm just taking a pencil brush with milk chocolate. Just running that all along the lash line. And then I want to take some of the orange and sort of wrap it down around here because otherwise it just looks a little bit weird to have the orange floating there. So I'm taking a smaller fluffy brush and then just pulling that orange down right here. I don't want to bring it all the way in. I'm probably going to stop like right here. So a third on the outer corner. So there's no real brow bone highlight shade in this palette. The one here called Candy, a little bit too pearlescent white for this look, I think. So I'm also kind of confused too because my Wet n Wild Brulee eyeshadow single is like missing from my container that I keep all like my usual stuff. So I'm going in with another one. This one is by Quo. It's one of their brand new eyeshadows. They started releasing them as singles. This one is called Wake Up. And it is just a bright, my skin-ish tone. I mean, that's definitely brighter than my skin tone, but you get the idea. And just using that to blend out the crease color and highlight my brow. Really curious where the heck that Wet n Wild Brulee shadow went. I don't want to lose it. I've hit pan on it. I want to actually finish that sucker up. Okay, I put on some liner. I didn't wing it out this time. I put on some mascara, false lashes, and the eyes are mostly done. The only thing that I'm noticing though is that the glitter is actually causing the shadow underneath to break up. Not a fan of that. It's definitely not the glitter glue because I know the glitter glue doesn't do that. There's something about whatever's in that glitter binder that's causing the breakage. I'm not in love with that, I gotta say. But I'll fix that up at the end and just put like more powder on top. Okay, for face, I'm gonna go in with two of my favorite foundations. I think I'm finally the right color for them. Went for a long walk yesterday, like 2 hours out in the middle of the day. Stupid me. Only put sunscreen on my face and then did not on like my chest area. And like, there we go. Nice tan lines, huh? Right. So these are the Boots No. 7 Instant Radiance Foundation. They no longer make it. I bought like 8 to 10 bottles when I was last in the UK 2 years ago. The shades I'm going to be using are Cool Ivory and Warm Vanilla. Mixed together, they look like the right tone for me. So yeah, it was super nice outside yesterday, Saturday, and I went for a long walk in downtown Toronto, which can be hard to find isolated places because everybody's out when the weather is nice. I ended up walking through the Don Valley Ravine sort of area. There's a path down there. I usually run it, but today I just wanted to, or yesterday I just wanted to walk. Yeah, there we go. That's the right color. And it was really nice. It was nice to just go out and walk, but man, there were so many people, and I am so annoyed at all the people who are walking in pairs or in like 3 of them, and they don't move over when people are walking towards them. Look, that's a constant problem even outside of COVID, but during COVID, it's like you could at least go single file when somebody is coming towards you. Instead, I have to like completely get off the path, face another direction so that I'm not breathing on them and they're not breathing on me. And I'm like, could you be like more inconsiderate? Probably not. Clearly people are concerned about being in other people's proximity, so you can do your best to go single file when somebody else is coming up to you. It's so annoying. And of course, there are always the people who don't have any masks on, who refuse to go single file. And it's like, you're just being ridiculous. I go out of my way when I'm running or walking to like make sure that I go onto the street to get away from people if I don't have a mask on. Because when I'm running, I can't run with a mask on. Like, I see some people doing it and good on them, but like, I can't do that. It's just, I just get way too sweaty in the mouth area. Can't stand it. Even just like walking with a mask on, I'm like sweating in the mouth area. Maybe I'm a heavy breather, I don't know. But yeah, I do my best to try to get as far away from people as I possibly can if I don't have a mask on, like when I'm running. So to see people just walk 3 abreast with no care in the world that somebody's coming towards them and they refuse to go single file, I'm just like, man, you're an asshole, aren't you? All 3 of you. I love this foundation so much. I was so sad that they discontinued it. It just sinks into my skin and looks amazing. So I wanted to try to stick with the chocolate theme as much as I could. So I'm going to be using my Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer. Not the milk chocolate one this time. I'm actually going with the original chocolate one. So I was on that walk, I was fiddling around with Samsung Health. I use a Samsung phone. And I noticed that it had like walk and run data for me for the last, well, however long I've had Samsung phones, which is probably about a decade now. But I pulled up the difference between 2019 and 2020 in terms of walk and run distance, and it was a little horrifying, okay? In 2019, I'll put the values up on screen so you can see them. 2019, I believe I ran and walked over 2,000 kilometers in the year, which is wild. And then I think in 2020 it was only like 800 kilometers, and I'm like, that is quite the difference. And if you look at the calorie comparison and the frequency of exercise, something like that. I know the value on the calorie thing is very very arbitrary. It's not exactly exact, but it does a measurement based on the distance that you've traveled. I think the value was something like 1/3 of the calories burned in 2020 in comparison to like 2019. And again, I know those values are like bullshit essentially, but it is weird to just see, or sad rather, to see the difference between how much physical activity I managed to achieve in 2020 versus 2019. Just made me a little bit sad, that's all. I like that kind of like physical exercise type data type stuff though. Like I've got a Garmin and it tracks my runs on there, and I use my, not my Fitness Pal, I use the Nike Run app too to track my distances and all that kind of stuff. And I just like having that kind of data, because you know then at the end of the year it can tell you like, oh, you like ran 500 kilometers, which was usually my rough goal for a year. I don't think I've managed that in the last 2, but I like seeing that kind of stuff. Okay, for my blush, I'm going to use the Essence Silky Touch blush in the shade Autumn Peach. It's one of my more orange type blushes. I mean, it's not quite close, it's more peach, but I thought it would work with this because I'm going to do a little bit more of a chocolatey eye. Chocolatey eye. Yes, I did do that. I meant chocolate colored lips. But yeah, I had a decent past week actually for just physical activity in general, and I felt the difference so much in how I just felt day to day. I think I ran 3 times and I walked 3 times. Over an hour for the walks too. So that was really nice. I mean, the weather's really turned around here in Toronto. It's a little bit warm for me, I'll admit. Like right now, I think it's around 20, 21 outside, and the condo is boiling hot at this point. It's roughly about 26, 27 degrees in here. It is not comfortable whatsoever, but they are thankfully turning on the AC in this building tomorrow. We can control the individual temperature gauge for the unit, but until they switch it over to AC from the heat, we're stuck, right? Like I've had the windows open for months now, even though we're on a noisy street in downtown Toronto. Which is not great to have windows open when that's happening because, man, the sirens get kind of loud. But there's been no other option. We had to open all the windows because it's like a sweat box in here. Okay, for highlighter, I'm going to use one that I haven't touched in a long time, but it fit the orange theme perfectly. It's the BECCA highlighter in the shade Dreamsicle. I love this color, but I don't use it enough anymore because I never think about it. Just a little bit of a wash of orange. All right, next up, brows, which I will do off camera because it's very boring and I do the same thing every time. And then I'll come back and we'll do the lips. Okay, so for lips, I pulled out a pretty old lipstick, but I think it's gonna go with this. I was initially thinking trying to do orange, but I think that was gonna be overkill. So instead I'm going with the Too Faced Melted Chocolate. I was trying to remember what the name of this was. Liquefied Longwear Lipstick in the shade Chocolate Milkshake. It still smells the same as ever. That's a good sign. So that is the finished look. Oh, I just noticed that. I was trying to swatch other orange lipsticks earlier to see what would go with this. And in the end, a lot of my oranges ended up looking quite red, which in comparison to red lipstick, they would have been very orange, but overall they were not as orange as like, you know, the cover of the Reese packaging. Okay, so I like the overall look. My first impressions on this are quite good. The shadows, the matte ones are fantastic. The shimmery, gold one is quite good on my inner corner. But the glitter in here, no, I would not recommend it. When you touch it, it's very smooshy and it just kind of like comes off completely on your finger. It's quite chunky, but it's got some sort of goopy properties to it. So it kind of like was adhering to my eye even without the glitter glue, which I initially thought was good. But then something in that adhesion type property started to like break apart the matte eyeshadow underneath. And I've covered it over with more of the darker chocolate color here in order to like make it not look like it's breaking apart. But I definitely would not be using that glitter color again. I might just completely scoop it out of this palette and get rid of it because there's no point me using that if it's just gonna break up the shadow underneath. That being said, I do like the colors in here aside from that glitter one. They worked out well, they were super pigmented. I like the overall look and I am enticed by the colors in here. I think it is actually a good representation of the Reese's brand. I just wish that that pressed glitter one was more of a shimmery brown, which is not something I normally ask for in a palette, but based on how that one performed, like it's just basically useless. So that's going to be it for week 61. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.